Steelrising isn't the only Dark Souls clone, it's not the only game set during the French Revolution, and it's not the only game about clockwork automatons, but it might just be the only game that combines all three. It's entering a genre that is defined by a fairly narrow set of common elements such as uncompromising difficulty, healing items that only replenish at checkpoints, and more often than not, a setting that's really bleak. Usually a broken, miserable world that's well beyond redemption, like Yharnam or England. The kings and inventors of the genre, FromSoft, have had it down to a fine art for some time, regularly producing the best action games of their class, which doesn't give an upstart Souls-like much room to make its mark. In order to truly shine, Steelrising needs to excel at the basics, but it also needs to bring something new to the table, to push the genre in a direction it's never gone before, or at the very least not constantly remind you that you'd rather be playing Bloodborne. Steelrising gives us a very distinctive alternate history to pirouette around in, but is that enough to differentiate it from the rest of the Soulslikes? I've got no idea because I'm shite at these things, but Connor does because he reviewed it. So, Steelrising, we know it's a Souls-like, we know it's got a very distinctive setting, art style, all that stuff. What does it do particularly well?
Well, because your characters are sort of like dancing robots sort of thing, that's kind of your background, a lot of the weapons have movesets that are based around that. So you have fans or like...
Fans as in like...
French fans, but with like knives on them and stuff like that.
Not like a TikTok following or...
No, nothing like that. You kind of dance around enemies and your charged moves have you doing like ballet poses and stuff, which early on in the game you don't really notice. But once you get into it and you're like dodging moves right, it's kind of fluid and kind of... It's great to look at. It's quite eye-catching. You also mentioned the setting. I do think this sort of 1700s revolutionary France is great. And you see all these like peasant villages and these lovely sort of castles and gateaux and stuff like that. It's brilliant. Did I say gateaux?
Yeah, gateaux, you did actually.
As in like cake.
Chateaus. So it's got a fairly distinct setting. Is that enough to differentiate it from the rest of the Souls-like pack?
Not for my money. The combat is very familiar, but kind of slightly more clunky. The weapons, while sort of unique and while they make sense in the world, aren't especially exciting compared to some of the wild stuff you see in the genre's best.
Yeah.
Enemy variety isn't super inspiring. It's kind of okay. Like if you're fiending for more of this sort of game, it's there, right? But I wouldn't recommend it to someone over a Dark Souls game or like Bloodborne or something, or The Surge 2 or something like that. It's decent. It does its job. It turns up and you can have a good time with it, but it's not especially exhilarating. It's okay.
I guess you've already answered my last point then, which is like, for someone like me who isn't particularly bothered about Souls-like games, I mean, I say I'm not bothered about them. I'm basically shite at them, right?
Yeah.
So I tend to avoid them because I know I'm not going to have a good time. From what you're saying, it sounds like this is laser targeted at people who are pining for another Dark Souls game.
Well, it's worth noting that the game does have some features that are sort of meant for people like you. It has a compass that guides you to sort of...
Yeah.
That, in a nice way. It has a compass that guides you to quest locations. It has an assisted mode you can put on, which makes the game easier, but you don't get achievements or whatever.
Oh, that's interesting.
But no, yeah, so that's cool. So the difficulty side of it can be toned down if you want that.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, even if you do that, even if you use those things, you're still left with this okay third-person action game.
So it's like, it might be more accessible than other Souls-likes for people who aren't into Souls-likes.
I would say if difficulty is the biggest barrier, give it a go, but you'll still be left with a game that's kind of, it's fine.
I suppose it's difficult to set yourself up as separate to the rest of the Souls-likes when, like, this has got a sort of deep impact Armageddon thing going on with Lies of P as well. It's like, it's not even the only one that's about sort of automatons running around historical France. And both things are basically like a Doctor Who plot that's like literally a Doctor Who plot that's been fed into the Souls-like machine.
It is literally like you could spin a wheel and pick out sort of setting and twist and come out with some of these sort of Souls-like games. There is merit to this, obviously. I mean, it's impossible to avoid comparisons with games that are way more fun.
So there you have it. Steelrising is decent. It's fine. It's alright. It won't reinvent the guillotine, but if you're starved for a Souls fix, you could do a lot worse. And if you're not starved for a Souls fix, then just don't worry about it. It's fine. Just chill out. Take it as a win. It's one less thing on the to-do list, isn't it? Let's be weird about it.